okay, what are the distributors that are doing it? Not the sales agents, but the distributors. So figuring out these are the people we can go pitch to once we either have the movie, or I guess if we're just trying to pitch them the script to fund it.
The Production Playbook.
It was so cool, man, you know, getting to meet you on the set of Virgin Birth, but then also like watching you freaking work, dude. Like, what an amazing experience. You know, you bring this energy on set where it's like you just have this intuition for lighting. And your role on Virgin Birth was a gaffer. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess gaffing in general is like, it's really just figuring out what the sun would do naturally, but trying to make it look prettier. You know, because sometimes the sun is just too harsh, but unless you are blessed with a layer of clouds, but just trying to see like where it would naturally hit, so then we can either emphasize it, soften it, bounce it, neg it, you know, just the whole 9 yards of just trying to figure out where is like the most organic way to bring light into a scene. Because once you know where a light's coming from, it's kind of looks like it's not that great.
So I guess the one word, motivation.
Yeah. Motivation.
Motivation.
So with Virgin Birth, Ryan, tell us your process working with Jamal, as far as like, you know, DP gaffer relationship when you come into, let's just say, this movie per se.
Yeah. So, okay. So Jamal, the biggest thing he said was he's going to shoot at a T4. So knowing he's wanting to shoot as a T4, it's like, okay, so we need more sun everywhere, but he also wants it to be like soft and then, you know, bounced, and then we neg some things to just make it look almost like there's no lighting done. And that's the hard part, is like making the light look like it naturally is, but just emphasizing it. And that was like the key word, is emphasize the light, but naturally. And so, you know, knowing we're doing T4s, especially T4s at night, we're like, okay, so we're getting the sharpness. How do we bring up all this ambient essentially? And so it was, a lot of it was figuring out how to shoot a light inside and then making sure that lit the environment. So in one of the scenes when Mary's laying down on her bed, and then I think she has like a nightmare and wakes up, we literally just like shot a 1200X on the ground onto a mirror and then just shot it back into the wall. So it's like that itself was just bringing the room up everywhere. And so we just motivate and like bounce the other light to just ring it around. And then for night scenes, it was tough. It was really tough because, you know, I feel like every movie needs a condor at night to have moonlight. And so we didn't have it. So we were like throwing mambo combos with like big lights as much as we can, as far up and as high up as we can, just like generators on everything. And so that's just like one of the tough things. And we just had to keep bringing in light, wrapping in light as close as we can, as long as we were motivating it from one source. But yeah, so it was a really cool experience, something I haven't done as a T4 challenge, I would say. That could be a cool thing. T4 challenge.
Yeah, man. I mean, at T4, you're kind of revealing a little more of the set. The set becomes more of a character as well. Let me ask you this, because you're a DP as well, and you are an Alexa owner, and you're actually shooting this on an Alexa right now, which is pretty cool and everything. But so if it looks bad, it's on me. But for the grade. But I want to ask you this, Ryan. So the Alexa is kind of the industry standard, right? And it's, you know, a good baseline for, you know, exposure. When you're bringing in these lights and you're saying you wanted this source to come in, but it has to illuminate the room. As a DP, are you kind of thinking like, man, okay, I know Jamal's wanting to expose the sensor, right? Because I've noticed he would not only push his white balance, but he'd also kind of play with the exposure index or the ISO, right? He's kind of moving in that spectrum. So as a gaffer / DP, what is your thought process on exposing the sensor, and how are you maintaining those lighting ratios without creating this washed out environment? You know, I mean, there's some slicing you have to do. I've noticed that you were shaping the heck out of that light, man.
And also, Ryan, like I had to piggyback off what Jacob, it was like, can you tell us too, on the flip side, is like how to create that mood look without creating tons of noise with just a little bit of light?
So like going into projects as a gaffer or even as a DP, it's like really knowing the native for the cameras. And so we were shooting on a 35. And so I believe the natives is like 800 and 3200, but I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone in the comments will rip me a new one. But yeah, one of those, one of those two. And so it was like, okay, you know, what is our goal? What is like our where do we want to stay? And Jamal was like, I definitely want to try to stay at 800. There was a few times where we had to go up a little bit just because we just couldn't, and so it's like, okay, we're maintaining that 800. If we can get a camera inside everywhere we're going to point, it's like we need to be able to light the back and then bring everything forward. Because as soon as you start lighting front, in my opinion, it just starts to get flat and then flatter and then flatter. And then you got like a flat Stanley looking image. But if you start from the back and work your way forward, then it's like, okay, everything is being motivated from afar. The sun or moon's over there. And yeah, so that was definitely the challenge at times, because Capernaum or even the first century villages have windows that are like literally this big. So it's like, okay, we're either candlelight or moonlight. And then if that moonlight's coming in, how can we fill the space naturally? And so bringing up the smoke. And that was kind of a key thing to eliminate noise. It was for night scenes, especially, and I guess with candles, is to bring up the atmosphere lighting wise. We would have to haze it up so then light has things to bounce off of, and so then we would not have like dark spots where we can't bring back up in post. And that's kind of like another thing is, I feel like a lot of people forget to light the shadows in a way where you can crush them to get those sharp blacks. And so we were looking a lot at the false color and making sure like we were in a specific, I think we were doing like what is it, gray and greens with a little bit of okay for purple or blue, whichever one it is right before it's pretty much not there. I should know this on the top of my head, but I don't. That's okay, why I like those little grids. Yeah. But yeah. So just always maintaining like, okay, we want our shadows here, we want our, exposure here, and then we're okay with highlights here. And so just always looking at that.
And you kind of created consistency with that too, right? Because I'm a false color fan, big time, and I feel like what I'm always trying to do is always retain my highlights, and then try to get creative with how to salvage the shadows, right? Like where do we put pools of light and things like that, so we don't have a pocket of noise. We have a pocket of exposed sensor, and we can. I hate to say it like this, but we can crush it later. But to have that texture there goes so far in a clean image.
And a good example is that looking at movies that do day for night exteriors, like Nope. There's a couple other ones that did it. Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal. Is a lot of those night scenes that are exterior were actually daytime, and so it's looking at those as references of like, wow, how did they shoot this so sharp at night? And pretty much is because they day for night the exteriors. And then I know Nope did also have like an IMAX camera and infrared and all that. But yeah.
So what would you say on Virgin Birth was your most challenging scene to light?
Oh man.
I know you love the NCs. I do too. Those are and the BC7. Yeah.
Dude, those lights are just those lights are
you gave Jake and I
throw everywhere. I personally like
some ideas, by the way. We stole some ideas from you.
That's right.
What ideas?
Just what really stuck out to me, Ryan, is like, and I know we were in a first century setting, but your the way you kind of planted your lights in the scene and you used with depth, like you would have, and I remember in this one scene, I think it was at Elizabeth's house when Mary and Elizabeth were talking. It was day one, and you had several grids, like 1 by or 2 by grids, like light panels on the ceiling, and you they were like flex mat lights, and they had grids on them, and you were kind of like hitting them at a 45-ish, and you were staging them backwards into the scene. So you almost were creating these little pillars of light. And then on the surfaces, on the tables and things, you were hiding MCs to like enhance the glow of candles. And I guess that's a great thing about first century is like you can't be too probably artificially sourcey. There's no fluorescence, but like candles everywhere. So you enhance the candle light, right, with those MCs. But dude, I love the way you created these pockets of light, like the sun might be peeking through this crappy roof, or whatever. That stood out a lot. And then I think about how do you apply that to a modern environment, and really gets the brain going.
Yeah. Well, to kind of like answer Nathan's question first, leading up to that, which is a great segue, is So one of the hardest scenes to film there was actually that night scene towards the end. Just because we didn't have the condor, so it's like, okay, the next best thing we have is 4 Mambo combos, a 1200X, 600D, a 600X, and then a 300D Mark II with the dome. So it's like, put the strongest one as far back as we can, and then just I think we did 20 feet, put the next strongest one, and pretty much shoot them all in the same direction. And then we fogged the heck out of it to try to soften it up a little bit. And so we kind of got there. In my opinion, we got there with what we could, but if we had like a condor with I forgot what they call it, like a giant like 20 by China ball or whatever shooting into it, it would have been a little different. But I think with what we had, I think we achieved something really great. And so that was probably the hardest scene. It was late at night, light a whole field, and we're just trying to like pump it and move it. But in return, doing kind of like those interior scenes of what you're talking about with all those candles and putting those, we had 2x2 F22 panels, and we had a China silk with a grid on it. And the goal with those were to essentially bring up the atmosphere like we were talking about earlier, to make sure there's no artifacts. And the challenge, though, was keep them off the walls enough so it doesn't look like it's coming from above. So making sure they're soft and hitting what we want at an angle so it doesn't look flat, plus making sure they don't look like there's a candle in the ceiling that should be burning the house down right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to call that ambiguous room tone.
Ambiguous room tone to enhance the candles.
It's almost like a band name.
Dude, yeah.
It's like a ska band.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Look, we could talk virgin birth all day,
Yeah.
but Ryan, you have a huge skill set, man. You do a little bit of acting, right? I think acting is like your forte, right? That's what you're like. You put your foot forward with that, but gaffing, DPing. Do you do any like producing and directing too, or you do craft services? What else do you do? You kind of wear a lot of hats, man. Let's dive into like all the different aspects of your filmmaking life here, man. What do you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm an actor first, and I think I realized early on, I was doing auditions after auditions after audition, and I wasn't booking anything, and I don't blame them. Like looking back at some of those auditions, I'm like, why did I even try? Like, this looks terrible. Like, I did a terrible job.
We're so hard on ourselves as actors, too, man.
We are the worst critics. Seriously. But yeah, and so I learned early on that, I don't want to wait for opportunities. I wanted to create them. And I'm a person that wants to know everything. I like to understand how, a tire rolls, essentially. Like, I want to know every little aspect of it. And so that's kind of where I started diving into writing, started diving into producing, because if you want to create the thing you write, you have to produce it. And then, after that, we started hiring like a DP, and I was like, how do you do this? And then a gaffer, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's like, just like one thing after the other to just kind of figure out how all of these people work cohesively to make one great product. And so that's kind of like what I started trickling into. So yeah, I act full time. I write a lot. I produce full time. That's kind of like my second thing that I do aside from acting. And then, yeah, I definitely, I enjoy lighting. I enjoy DPing, just making things look pretty in general. But that's the thing, man. It's like, it's not all about the camera all the time. It's how you light it.
Every scene needs a floor. These are the sounds that give it one. Large spaces, real movement. Sonic Volumes, Construction Ambience, Volume 1. Let your scenes stand on sound.
So let's dive into some of your projects, man. Let's start talking. I mean, you did a comedy recently, right? Like up in the mountains?
Yeah.
Christmas
Okay.
in the
all this
cabins?
about?
Yeah. So we just shot a movie called Christmas at the Cabin. It's did its theatrical run a few months ago, and now we're kind of doing a streaming. You can buy it at Faith Channel and various other places.
I need peace. We need peace. I promise I'm not going to take my eyes off of you for a second.
I like the sound of that.
Are we there yet? We've got lights, snacks, ornaments, everything to make this Christmas perfect.
Right this way.
Oh, look, here we are. I thought you said no one was going to be here.
Food in my empty stomach.
I got evicted and I just came.
Yeah, you're squatting here?
You're Michelle.
You invited a stranger to spend Christmas with us?
It's my best friend from college. I've never spent Christmas with friends before.
Yeah.
This should be fun.
I hope we'll be friends.
Uh-oh.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly.
La 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 la.
Food's ready.
Something smells amazing.
He's a know-it-all, and he doesn't respect me or our faith.
You don't believe what she believes, and you're already going to hell.
And he's ruining Christmas.
She's not always like this. Only when you live with her.
My life is falling apart, and nobody seems to care anything about me.
Maybe they're not the one you're upset with.
I try, and it's never good enough.
You know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Don't worry about me. Too much is given, much is required.
That's a lot to do on your own.
I can't be trusted to be a good sister or a wife. And I obviously can't be trusted to do Christmas.
That one was a godsend, and it was just all orchestrated by God so perfectly, because we were gonna do this movie in February, but then it didn't happen, and it was like we're all bummed about it. And Sharon Oliphant brought this film and was like, hey, we should totally do this. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's totally do this. It's great. And then we kind of ran into the investors, and everybody just like automatically was like, yeah, we're doing it. And so we had maybe a month or two of prep, got these cabins secured up in Breckenridge, didn't really do a tech scout, shot in the mountains, shot in a cabin for like 3 weeks that we were staying at. So you get cabin fever a lot, but yeah, it was definitely something that was orchestrated by God, and it was a blessing to produce and work alongside some friends and family of ours, pretty much.
So, how was your distribution on that project? A lot of people in our industry are a little hazy on distribution. Can you tell us a little bit, like your process about that?
Yeah, yeah. So our distribution process for that was we kind of wanted to do things more internally opposed to just try to sell it. So Faith Channel is kind of the person that's segueing all of that. They're doing Faith Channel distribution. So they secured theaters, and then they're doing TVOD, which is transactional, on their website. And then we're going to eventually branch out to like AVOD platforms or streaming platforms. But right now, really tackling this TVOD.
Man, it's awesome.
Can you kind of dive into those a little bit? I mean, so like kind of break down those methods of revenue generation.
Like there's 3 ways to make money on movies. It's TVOD, AVOD, and SVOD. TVOD could be a theatrical run, you're selling tickets. TVOD could be you're selling it on your website, the whole 9 yards. You're selling it either for selling it or renting it out on a website. And then SVOD is streaming. So you get license deals from XYZ platform to stream it for a year or 2 years or et cetera, whether that's non-exclusive or exclusive. And then, of course, there's AVOD, which has similar terms sometimes where they can give you like a minimal guarantee and they own it or exclusively on their site for, I don't know, X long. So think of YouTube. You put something on there, you get revenue off of X amount of views. So that's kind of like how it works. And it's really like figuring out where you think you would make your most money. And I've just heard a lot of success with TVOD, essentially, because you are the person in control of doing it all. Because essentially you are doing the marketing for no matter what you're doing, unless you're able to afford like a PR company to help you do the marketing. So
that's a daunting task, man.
Dude, it is. Yeah.
So,
you need a team from the get-go.
So when you're coming together to produce these type of projects, like can you tell us your process? Like, do you say, hey, I'm a producer, I can also, to save money, I'm also a DP gaffer, or is there a process where you're like, I can't do I can't do all this, or I'll farm it out? What is kind of your thought process putting a movie together?
Yeah, okay. So I guess in a nutshell, in an elevator pitch per se, our process is a person comes to us with a script saying like, hey, this is the script we have, whether they have funding or no funding. And, we dive into it, we see if we like it. And then I'll create a schedule off of it. And then Corey Cannon, my business partner, would make a budget, so we'll have like a 15-day shoot per se and a 20-day shoot. And then we'll have a, $300,000 budget and then a $750,000 budget. And so it's really knowing your bottom and your like, this is how much you can get successfully done, and this is like, okay, we can do it on, I don't want to say life support, but do it as a low budget indie.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. It happens, and sometimes you can make a lot out of nothing. You just have to have faith as much as a mustard seed, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our process. We I typically read it and then I'll break it down, figuring out the shooting schedule, how many casts, extras, locations, whole 9 yards. Typically ranging from like 4 to 6 pages a day, and then Corey does the budget based off of that. And then we just, from there, we just start tackling. If the money's coming or in the bank, then we start going to cast, we start crewing up, and then just putting all those key people together, and then those key people essentially start bringing in the others, like the key grips or the ACs, and then yeah. And then, that's the process as far as production wise.
But then you always have to say, like, okay, well, hey, we believed in the script enough to where we could really pull all these resources together and create a great product. But then it's kind of up to your distributor, right? So are you kind of like doing a handshake deal beforehand where you're like, hey, look, here's the concept. We're going to be able to execute it for this amount, Are you trying to like budget these films with an ROI in mind? In other words, like, well, if we shoot it for 400, we know somebody will buy it for 600. And I know that's not exactly how it works, but dive into that a little bit. Are you trying to like figure out what somebody would pay for that concept before you establish a budget or adjust your budget accordingly? Tell us a little bit about beginning with the end in mind, because it seems like you want to do that, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's like a chess game to answer.
I bet. That's why I asked.
But yeah, I think
Jacob with the multi-layered questions.
Your audience. Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Oh no, Nathan's falling.
I know. No, everything's falling apart.
Yeah, he's like, I can't listen to this. But but yeah, I think knowing your market before going into anything is essential. You got to know who you're selling to. You can't have a one glove fits all scenario. You have to have, this is the market. And I think that's the same with family films. You can't say it's for everyone because, okay, well then, Joe Smo down the street that doesn't like family movies and only likes war movies, that doesn't fit him. So it's like really knowing your audience and how to target that audience. Whether that's, you can go with a PR firm or a marketing firm, or just creating like a TikTok strategy or an influencer strategy. Like if it's a family movie, you want to hire those, let's say, influencers or people that stand out in that genre compared to like a Blumhouse movie, And so really knowing that, and then you can kind of double back with that with, okay, what are the distributors that are doing it? Not the sales agents, but the distributors. So figuring out, these are the people we can go pitch to once we either have the movie, or I guess if we're just trying to pitch them the script to fund it. And so that's kind of really where it boils down to. It's knowing your audience and knowing the distributors that hit those audiences.
How does one find a distributor? I get that question all the time.
Yeah, honestly, the best places to find distributors, I'd say 2 or 3 ways. One, go to literally any video store, Walmart, Target, Amazon, whatever. Look at the back of the DVD and it'll say like, okay, distributed by so-and-so. You can then look it up, and then, a lot of times there's a contact form and you just submit it. You're probably going to get one answer or one reply out of 100 emails. Mm-hmm. I did that a couple months ago or a couple years ago, and I literally got like 1 out of 100, but it just takes that one. Outside of that, it'd be definitely going to film festivals or going to film markets like AFM, Berlin, Toronto, just like all those big ones. People are there. You just have to know, you have to talk to everybody, and don't talk to everybody like you're trying to get something out of them. Think of it more so of how can I help you be more successful, so then we could be, entirely successful. I guess a better way to say that is, how can I help you? Wait, there's a quote there. How can I help you?
Help me.
Help you.
How can I help you? Help me.
There's a saying for that. Yeah. What can I do for you? Yeah. Wait, I got it. Yeah. What can I do for you in order for all of us to be successful? So whether that's like, maybe you just need a contact, or you need a specific project, and that's maybe something we can bring and deliver to you. So, yeah.
That's a great philosophy in life, man. Just like aiming to help others because it's the right thing to do, and then
Yeah.
things have a tendency to work out, right? You kind of just
Yeah.
trust in God's plan, and
Circle. It
just
eventually circles back.
go with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's
Yeah.
that line, for Trailer Park Boys? What goes around is all around, But man, so you kind of got your hands in pre-production, production,
Mhm.
post-production. I mean, do you do any post-production at all?
Man, I edited our first movie, and that was I don't know how editors edit. I wanted to rip my hair out. Like, I don't mind sitting in the editing bay and watching like the timeline and doing it all, or not necessarily doing it all, but like just being there and making it work. But just being the person that clicks the mouse and figures out and organizes, I'm like, oh my goodness, like
Yeah,
Look
it's
at
awful.
Jacob. He's like,
sucks.
yep.
you literally have an
Every-
editing timeline in your background.
Dude, I know, and that's just. I wish that
It's
was
haunting
decoration, but that is progress. But man, like I'll tell you, like I find that, and maybe you could attest to this, like the days of being like a one hat filmmaker kind of seem like they're fading. Like unless you're an established legacy person and you've got a huge resume and you're the guy or the girl for that one thing. Kind of like you got to make your own magic happen, right? So I guess the sharper all your tools in your tool belt are, the better off you probably will be. What do you see the future of filmmaking look like, Ryan? I mean, are we going in a direction that's going to create a renaissance of art, and we're going to start seeing some amazing things come out of these unexpected places, or do you feel like we're racing to a red light here? Like, give me your perspective on all this. It's a loaded question, but what are you seeing, man?
Yeah, I definitely think being multifaceted is essential nowadays. I don't think you can just do one thing anymore, And I think that's the same even for directors. It's like you have to be a writer director. You have to be a writer producer director. You have to, know it all. You don't necessarily have to be, a key grip and a director, but it could help, You could understand how things are going to need to be rigged or how things are going to need to be lit or whatever. So it's knowing all of that definitely expedites the process, because there's not many, especially in the indie level, there's not many scenarios where you're filming indie movies for 60 days long. That's pretty much 15 to 25 days. That's probably how much time you got to do it. And so I think being multifaceted is the key thing. And to add to that is, I think nowadays with the need of content, the people that are going to shine are the ones that could tell a good story. Because it's so easy to go make a movie. You can literally go do it on your phone. You could go do it with a GoPro or something and make it look decent. So being able to tell a good story will outweigh the amount of movies someone can go make, Go make one good movie opposed to 10 okay movies.
That's great. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
such a great line, man.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, man, what else is going on in your world? What else do you want to like promote right now? What are some things that you're excited about?
What's on the horizon, as Jacob's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you wanted to go back and touch on some old stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of irons in the fire. A lot of films we've done, are kind of out. They're kind of out of post-production prison per se.
Right.
Something that's coming out that we're really working on that we think has really good legs is called The Flock, and it's this comedy where it's this Parks and Rec and The Office meet, and it's all shot in a church. So it's essentially Parks and Rec and The Office, but in the church. And so that's something, we're doing actually December 8th and 9th of filming a sizzle. And then we're going to be premiering it at NRB and various other places to eventually do the whole season. So that's something, we have in our pipeline. In addition to we got a Western comedy action movie we're getting ready to do. We have some other like one location movie type films. I'm fascinated by one location movies. And then, just a couple other little dramas here and there, but really just trying to figure out what's going to rattle people's bones, per se, if that's a good enough analogy.
The Production Playbook.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. You can find Production Playbook wherever you get your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. And if you want to support the show and rep the craft, check out Backlot Supply, our home for filmmaking merch and digital assets. We're always adding to that catalog. We'll see you in the next episode.